She was trying to open a jar of jam. That's it. A jar of jam that seemed to have been sealed by some personal enemy, as if the universe had conspired to make this one simple task her Mount Everest for the morning. And it was precisely in this ridiculous moment, jar in hand, blouse stained with coffee from her rushed breakfast, hair thrown up in a messy bun that had given up on life about an hour ago, that her boyfriend's mother walked into the kitchen, made that theatrical pause that only mothers-in-law seem to perfect, and delivered the sentence that would change everything. "You're not my son's standard. He deserves someone presentable." The words dropped like a stone into still water, sending ripples through every insecurity she'd ever tried to bury. She took a deep breath, not because she wanted to be mature, but because if she said anything in that exact second, she'd become the headline story in the family group chat by lunch. "Right," she responded simply. Just that one word, flat and non-committal. What hurt wasn't the sentence itself. It was the look, that clinical evaluating look, traveling from her stained blouse down to her worn slippers and back up again, as if she were a walking mistake, a cosmic error that had somehow infiltrated this family's carefully curated existence. And the worst part? Her boyfriend stayed silent, pretended not to hear, suddenly found something fascinating on his phone screen. His silence burned hotter than his mother's words, searing through her chest like acid. She'd needed him to speak up, to defend her, to say something, anything. But he just stood there, a coward dressed in expensive casual wear, letting his mother's poison settle into the air between them. She spent the day masking the pain with humor, made jokes with her best friend on the phone, said she was going to start training to open jars to improve her self-esteem, laughed it off like it was nothing. But alone, in the quiet moments between forced smiles, her chest felt like an elevator plummeting without brakes, that sick dropping feeling that wouldn't stop. That night, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling while he snored peacefully beside her, oblivious or uncaring, she couldn't tell which was worse. She made the decision that would change everything. She wasn't going to offer her worth to people who fed themselves by diminishing it. The breakup happened 3 days later. Quick, clean, necessary. He seemed almost relieved, which told her everything she needed to know. His mother had probably been in his ear the whole time, and he'd been too weak to choose for himself. She packed her things from his apartment. Not much. She'd never fully moved in, some unconscious part of her always knowing this wasn't permanent, and left without drama, no shouting, no tears in front of him. She saved those for later, for the privacy of her own space, for the moments when she could finally let herself feel the full weight of being deemed not enough. She started with small changes, nothing aesthetic. She wasn't going to transform herself to prove a point to people who didn't matter. These were internal changes, reconstructions of the life she'd let erode. First, she went back to the photography course she'd abandoned. She'd quit because his mother had made passive-aggressive comments about it being a cute hobby, but not really a career, implying she should focus on more practical things, more acceptable pursuits for someone dating her son. Now, walking back into that classroom felt like reclaiming stolen territory. Then, she revived friendships she'd let fade. Sarah, who she'd stopped seeing because her ex got weird about her having fun without him. Marcus, her college friend whose humor her ex never understood. The whole Tuesday night trivia group that had slowly dissolved when she kept canceling to attend his family dinners. She rediscovered hobbies that had been pruned away by 1,000 small cuts. The Sunday morning farmers market walks, the late night bookstore browsing, the trying new recipes and failing spectacularly adventures that his mother had somehow made feel childish and undignified. And in one of those photography classes, while she was fumbling with her camera settings and trying not to spill coffee on her notes, again, some things never changed, someone offered her a napkin with a knowing smile. "I've seen you save 3 notebooks this semester. Figured you might need reinforcements," he said. That was how she met Daniel. He was someone completely different from what she'd known. Educated but not pretentious about it. Quick to laugh, calm in a way that felt earned rather than performed. He had a charm that didn't announce itself, didn't demand attention. It simply existed, like good lighting or fresh air. When he smiled, it reached his eyes. When he listened, he actually listened, not just waited for his turn to talk. Their first real conversation happened after class, both of them lingering in that way people do when they're not quite ready to leave. They talked about photography, but also about terrible coffee, about childhood pets, about their favorite buildings in the city and why certain music videos were actually art. The conversation flowed like water, finding its level, easy and natural. She laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. The kind of laugh that comes from your stomach and surprises you with its force. Nothing romantic, not at first. Just two people exchanging experiences, finding unexpected common ground, enjoying the simple pleasure of being heard. But over the following weeks, as they started meeting for coffee before class, as their conversations stretched longer, she realized something profound. He valued everything she was, including, especially, the parts that had been labeled not standard. He thought her rambling stories were engaging, not exhausting. He found her intensity refreshing, not overwhelming. He appreciated her wild creativity, her occasional messiness, her tendency to overthink things and then laugh at herself. All the qualities that had been treated as flaws in her previous relationship were, to him, simply facets of who she was. Not problems to fix, not embarrassments to manage. Just her. She didn't tell him about the breakup details for a while. It felt too raw, too pathetic. My ex's mom said I wasn't good enough and he agreed by saying nothing. But eventually, during one of their longer conversations, it spilled out. She expected pity, or awkward comfort, or worse, agreement that maybe she should have tried harder to fit in. Instead, Daniel looked genuinely confused. Wait, they criticized you for being authentic? For having interests and personality? That's... He searched for words. That's like criticizing water for being wet. It's the whole point. Something in her chest, something that had been clenched tight since that kitchen confrontation, finally loosened. 3 months after the breakup, the invitation arrived. Her ex's family was hosting a big celebration dinner, his father's retirement party, a major event with extended family, business associates, the whole performance. She almost threw the invitation away. Why would she go? But then she noticed the handwritten note at the bottom, from her ex's cousin Maria, who'd always been kind to her. You should come. You were part of this family too. Don't let them erase you. Her best friend's reaction was immediate when she mentioned it. Are you going alone? I think so, she said. But even as she said it, a different idea was forming. Uh-huh, sure. You're going alone the same way I'm going to the gym at 6 in the morning. Total fiction. The idea solidified over the next few days. Not as revenge, she was past that, but as a statement, as a reclamation. She'd been made to feel small in that family's spaces. Maybe it was time to walk back into one of those spaces as her full self, without apology. When she asked Daniel, she was careful to frame it right. This is going to sound completely insane, but would you want to go to my ex's family dinner with me? No pressure, no weirdness, just, I don't want to walk in there alone and you're someone who makes me feel like myself. He didn't hesitate. When is it? Saturday at 7. I'm there. Should I bring anything? Wine? My charming personality? A lawyer in case things get weird? She laughed. Just yourself. That's more than enough. The night of the dinner, she dressed carefully. Not to impress them, but to feel like herself. A deep green dress that she loved, simple but elegant. The kind of thing that made her feel confident without trying too hard. She arrived first, walking into that familiar dining room with its 2 formal table settings and its air of careful judgment. Eyes turned toward her, and she could read the surprise, the whispered questions. The ex's mother. She still couldn't bring herself to think of the woman as anything more personal. Stood near the bar, her expression flickering between shock and something harder to name. Then, Daniel arrived. The room seemed to collectively inhale and hold its breath. He wasn't flashy, wasn't trying to make an entrance. He simply walked in wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, moving with a natural confidence that comes from never having had to prove yourself. He found her immediately in the crowd, smiled that genuine smile, and made his way over as if this were any other evening. The ex's mother actually froze, her champagne glass suspended halfway to her lips. The ex, God, he looked so small now, so diminished, choked on whatever he'd been about to say to his brother. The cousins did that thing where they make eye contact with each other in silent communication, mouths slightly open. The universal gesture of, "Are you seeing this?" Daniel didn't arrive showing off. He arrived sure. Elegant in the way that people who don't need to impress anyone are elegant. His posture said, "I'm here because I chose to be here for her, and I'm completely comfortable with that choice." She watched the ex's mother whisper urgently to her sister-in-law, loud enough for nearby people to hear. "Who is that? Did she hire a model or something?" She heard it, smiled to herself, but didn't respond. The comment revealed everything about the woman's worldview. That someone attractive and well-dressed would only be with her if paid to be. That genuine interest was somehow impossible. During the dinner, endless courses that seemed designed to be intimidating, Daniel was perfect. Not performance perfect, but genuinely perfect. He conversed easily with everyone, asked thoughtful questions, laughed at appropriate moments, shared interesting stories without dominating conversations. He was polite to the ex's mother, gracious even, which somehow made the whole situation more devastating for her. He treated the ex with neutral friendliness, acknowledging him without any edge or possessiveness, and the ex's mother couldn't stand it. She kept watching them, her envy visible in the tightness around her eyes, in her increasingly rigid posture, in the way she gripped her wine glass like it might escape. Every time Daniel made someone laugh, every time someone complimented him, every time he and she exchanged those small, intimate glances that people in genuine connection share, it was another small wound to the woman's ego. Eventually, because wealthy people always do this, someone asked the question, "So Daniel, what do you do?" He answered with complete simplicity. No false modesty, but no bragging either. "I'm a financial consultant for the Soares family holding company." The silence that followed was profound. It was the kind of silence that happens when everyone suddenly realizes they've wildly miscalculated something important. The ex's mother went pale. Actually pale. Color draining from her face in a way that would have been comical if it weren't so grimly satisfying. Because everyone at that table knew what that meant. The Soares holding company was a major financial force in the city. They held significant investments in dozens of companies, including, especially, the mid-sized firm where the ex worked in middle management. The ex wasn't just employed by a company that answered to the Soares financial board. He was, in the grand scheme of things, a very small fish in a very large pond that Daniel helped oversee. Translation: the man the ex's mother had just spent the entire evening sizing up with barely concealed disdain was, quietly and without fanfare, someone with considerably more influence than their entire family combined. The ex looked like he might be sick. His father went very quiet, probably calculating all the times he'd bragged about his business success to people who actually understood it was modest at best. The cousins were frantically Googling on their phones under the table. And the ex's mother, she tried to stand up, perhaps to excuse herself, perhaps to flee, perhaps because her brain was short-circuiting. But the shock, the sudden blood pressure spike from the evening's emotional roller coaster, the weight of her own venomous assumptions coming back to poison her. It was too much. She swayed once, then collapsed. Silverware clattering against china, someone's wine glass tipping over, and suddenly everyone was shouting and rushing forward. The rest of the dinner dissolved into chaos. Ambulance called, people hovering uncertainly, the ex trying to take charge while clearly panicking, the father making important-sounding phone calls. Daniel immediately offered to drive them to the hospital. Of course he did, because he was genuinely kind. Not performatively so. But the ex's father, perhaps embarrassed, perhaps still processing everything, insisted they'd handle it themselves. She rode to the hospital with Maria, the kind cousin, who kept saying, oh my God, did you know who he was? Did she know? This is insane. This is absolutely insane." At the hospital, they waited. The family clustered in the emergency room waiting area, speaking in hushed tones, shooting glances at her that ranged from apologetic to calculating. She sat apart, calm, holding her purse like she was waiting for a bus, scrolling through her phone without really seeing it. Daniel had followed in his own car, arriving about 20 minutes after them. He found her in the waiting room, sat down beside her without asking if she needed anything. Just present in that way he'd always been present. "You okay?" he asked quietly. "Yeah, I think so. This is surreal, but yeah. Want to leave? We don't have to stay." "No," she said, surprising herself. "I should stay until we know she's okay." He nodded, understanding without needing explanation. They sat together in the fluorescent lighting, occasionally getting coffee from the bad machine, watching the family drama play out around them. When the ex's mother woke up, just a fainting spell, dehydration and stress, the doctor said. Nothing serious. The first person she saw was her, standing there, calm and composed, holding her purse and a bottle of water she'd bought from the vending machine. "You came," the woman whispered, and there was genuine surprise in her voice. "Of course, your family, to them, and I know how to take care of people, even people who don't know how to take care of their words." The ex's mother looked like she wanted to say something, but then Daniel appeared in the doorway. He'd been getting updates from the nurse, and he added gently, "I came too. After all, you collapsed partly because of me. Seemed only right to make sure you were okay." The woman's face did something complicated. Shame, maybe. Regret. The dawning realization that she'd wildly misjudged a situation and that everyone now knew it. She smiled, but it was a yellow, sickly smile, the kind you make when you're trying to salvage pride from a position that has no pride left to salvage. The ex stood in the corner of the room, looking at his shoes, at the wall, anywhere but at his mother or at her, or at the situation he'd helped create through his silence. And then came the moment that broke something open, but in a beautiful way. Daniel reached over and took her hand. Right there, in front of everyone, without hesitation, without embarrassment. Just took her hand and held it like it was the most natural thing in the world. And he looked directly at the ex's mother and said, simply and honestly, "I only came because she matters to me. That's the only reason I'm here." The ex turned away, his shoulders hunching slightly. The father cleared his throat awkwardly. Maria smiled from her position by the window. And the ex's mother, she breathed deeply, and something in her face finally broke, finally softened, the armor of judgment cracking to reveal something more human underneath. She started, then stopped, breathed again. "I was wrong about you." The words hung in the air. An admission. Not an apology, not quite, but an admission nonetheless. She didn't celebrate the sentence, didn't gloat or feel vindicated or do any of the things she might have imagined in her angry moments over the past months. She just looked at this woman who had tried to make her feel worthless and responded with quiet dignity. "I know." 2 words. "I know." Not, "Thank you," not, "I forgive you," not, "It's okay," because it wasn't okay, and forgiveness wasn't something she owed. Just acknowledgement. Just the simple truth that yes, she had been wrong, and yes, she knew it, and yes, that was enough for now. The elegance of that response, its simplicity, its refusal to twist the knife or claim victory, defeated any remaining hostility in the room. There was nothing left to fight about. She'd already won by being exactly who she was. They left the hospital around midnight. The air outside was cool, clear, a relief after the recycled hospital atmosphere. They walked to where Daniel had parked, and he opened the car door for her, not in a performative chivalrous way, just in the way of someone who does these small kindnesses automatically. But before she got in, he paused and said, "So, can I take you to dinner sometime? One that doesn't involve anyone fainting." She laughed, really laughed, the sound surprising her with its lightness. It was the laugh of freedom, of release, of finally being able to find genuine joy in a moment, without it being weighed down by judgment or expectation. "Yes, now you can. Now you can ask me anything." They drove back through the quiet city streets, and she looked out the window at her reflection in the glass. Not standard, not presentable, not whatever narrow definition his family had tried to force her into, but whole, desired not despite who she was but because of it, valued for her authenticity, and finally, chosen by someone who actually knew how to see her. The story didn't end with revenge or with her ex realizing what he'd lost. It ended with something better, with her realizing what she'd gained, herself first and foremost. And then, unexpectedly, someone who made that self feel like enough, not just enough, like everything. As they pulled up to her apartment, Daniel said, "That was one hell of an evening. Sorry about all the drama." "Don't be. I gotta see you handle impossible people with grace. That was worth any amount of awkwardness." He paused. Plus, the look on that woman's face when she realized I wasn't a hired model was pretty priceless. She grinned. "You noticed that comment?" "Oh, I noticed everything, including you not taking the bait. That was impressive." "I didn't need to take the bait. I just needed to be myself." "Well," he said, his expression softening, "yourself is pretty damn remarkable." And there, in the quiet of the car, with the city lights reflecting off the windshield and the night stretching out with possibility, she finally felt it fully. She was free. Free of trying to be someone else's standard. Free of shrinking herself to fit into spaces that were never meant for her. Free to just exist, messy and coffee-stained and passionate and real, with someone who thought all of that was not just acceptable, but actually wonderful. "Same time next week for class?" Daniel asked. "Definitely. And maybe that dinner before?" "It's a date." She walked to her apartment door, turned back to wave, and watched him drive away. Inside, she put down her purse, kicked off her shoes, and looked at herself in the hallway mirror. Really looked, without criticism, without trying to see herself through anyone else's eyes. She saw someone who had survived being told she wasn't enough and had come out the other side knowing the problem was never her. Someone who had walked back into a room full of judgment and emerged with her dignity intact. Someone who had found the courage to leave what diminished her and the wisdom to recognize what elevated her. Not his standard, not theirs, but entirely, completely, beautifully her own. And that, she realized as she got ready for bed with a smile still playing on her lips, was the best standard of all.